Husband's dirty secret exposed at anniversary party. You won't believe what happened. The air crackled with a tension so thick, you could taste it. I never imagined my anniversary dinner would unravel into a horrifying spectacle, a complete destruction of everything I thought I knew. My name is Rachel, and this is the story of how my seemingly perfect life imploded in a single, devastating evening. Growing up, my life revolved around the church, family, and the unwavering beliefs my parents held dear. My dad, Thomas, was a deacon, and I always strived to be the good doctor they envisioned. I wore modest dresses, sang in the choir, and never missed a Sunday service. But there was always a tug-of-war between my parents and my older brother, David. David was different. He possessed a fiery spirit, a passion for music that clashed with our parents' conservative world. Then came his teenage years, and with them, the electric guitar. He was a natural, forming a band they called Rebels Echo. It was a defiant declaration of his newfound life, a life far removed from our parents' expectations. They saw his music as a path away from faith, a sign that he was lost. Despite their disapproval, David and I remained close. We would talk on the phone late into the night, him sharing stories of his gigs, me whispering about my life at home. He was my window to a world beyond our small town, a world I yearned to explore, but never dared to. Then Michael entered my life, the man I believed was the love of my life. He was older, a friend of a friend from church. Michael was everything my parents admired, kind, successful, and deeply religious. We dated briefly before he put a ring on my finger, promising a lifetime of happiness. Our wedding was beautiful, but bittersweet. David wasn't there. Mom and Dad had insisted. Michael held my hand, his smile warm, but my heart ached for my brother. As we exchanged vows, I couldn't help but feel a part of my world was missing. After the wedding, we moved into Michael's house. It was a cozy place, filled with the promise of a happy future. But as I unpacked my things, I couldn't shake off the feeling of something missing. I remember Michael noticing my distant look. "Everything okay, Rachel?" he asked, wrapping his arms around me. "Yeah, just thinking about David," I replied, forcing a smile. "He's made his choices, Rachel. We need to focus on our life, our future," he said. The first few months of marriage felt like a dream. "Good morning, beautiful." He would greet me every day with a kiss. "Good morning," I'd reply, my heart fluttering with happiness. We spent weekends exploring nearby towns. Everything felt perfect, but then I began to feel restless. I loved being with Michael, but a part of me yearned for more than just being a housewife. Back in college, I had dreams of becoming a teacher. I missed learning, being around people, feeling like I was contributing to something. One evening, while Michael was reading in the living room, I gathered the courage to bring it up. "Michael, can we talk about something?" I asked. "Of course, what's on your mind?" he replied. "I've been thinking, maybe I could look for a job, or at least some volunteer work. I want to do something more with my time," I said, hesitant. "But Rachel, you don't need to work. I'm here to take care of everything. Isn't this what you always wanted?" he replied. Not wanting to upset him, I said, "I know, and I appreciate that, but I need something of my own, you know, something that makes me feel fulfilled." Michael sighed, taking my hand. "I just want you to be happy, Rachel, but think about our future, our plans for a family. Don't you think your place is here with me, building that future?" I understood his point, but it didn't sit right with me. Still, I didn't want to argue. "Maybe you're right, I'll think about it," I said, forcing another smile. I focused on being the best wife I could be, cooking meals, keeping the house spotless. But deep down, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was losing a part of myself. Despite these creeping doubts, our life together seemed good on the surface. We were the ideal couple in everyone's eyes. Then, Michael started coming home late. At first, he would apologize, citing work pressure and important projects. "Sorry, Rachel, I hope you understand," he would say. I tried to be understanding. "It's okay, Michael, work is important. Just don't overdo it, okay?" But I felt lonely and neglected. The house, once filled with laughter and conversation, now echoed with my solitude. I found myself often sitting by the window, waiting for him to come home. One evening, when Michael came home later than usual, I decided to address the growing distance between us. "Michael, we need to talk," I said, my voice firm, yet trembling with apprehension. He looked exhausted. "What is it now, Rachel?" he snapped. I hesitated, taken aback by his tone. "It's just, you've been coming home late a lot. I miss spending time with you," I said, my voice barely a whisper. "Rachel, I'm working hard for us, for our future. You should be grateful, not complaining," he retorted. I felt a sharp sting at his words. "I am grateful, but I also miss my husband. Is it wrong to want to spend time together?" I asked, my voice choked with emotion. Michael's face hardened. "Look, I'm doing my best here. Maybe you should find some hobbies or something to keep you busy," he said dismissively. His words hurt, but I swallowed the pain. "Maybe you're right," I murmured, even though it felt terribly wrong. The conversations became less frequent after that. Michael grew more distant, and I felt more isolated. I started questioning everything. Our marriage, my role as a wife. It felt like we were living separate lives under the same roof. One day, while cleaning the house, I found a receipt for a fancy restaurant in Michael's coat pocket. It was dated for a night he said he'd been working late. My heart sank into the pit of my stomach. Confronting him seemed daunting, but I knew I had to. That evening, as we sat at the dinner table, I brought it up. Michael, I found a receipt in your coat. It was for a fancy restaurant. On the night you said you were working late, I said, my voice trembling slightly. I grabbed a bite after work. What's the big deal? He replied, avoiding my gaze. It's not that, it's just, you never mentioned it. Are you sure there's nothing else I should know? I asked, hoping for honesty, praying I was wrong. Michael's response was quick and sharp. Rachel, you're being paranoid. I'm tired of this constant questioning. Can't a man have some peace in his own home? I recalled at his words, feeling a mix of guilt and frustration. Was I wrong to question him? I knew I needed something to fill the void in my life. The idea of getting a job, of doing something meaningful, was still on my mind. It was a scary thought, but I couldn't ignore it any longer. One morning, after Michael left for work, I sat at the kitchen table with my laptop open. I started looking for job openings. There were a few that caught my eye, but one in particular stood out. A teaching assistant position at a local community center. It wasn't much, but it was a start. I hesitated for a moment before applying, my heart racing. This was it, my first real step towards something of my own. When I hit the submit button, I felt a surge of nervous excitement. A few days later, I got a call. They wanted to interview me. I was over the moon, but also terrified about how Michael would react. The interview went well, and they offered me the position. I was ecstatic. For the first time in a long time, I felt like I was doing something for myself. That evening, I told Michael, I have something to tell you. I began, my voice a mix of anxiety and excitement. He looked at me, his expression unreadable. What is it now? Rachel, he asked. I got a job as a teaching assistant. It's just part-time, I said quickly, almost in a whisper. Michael's reaction was not what I expected. He just stared at me for a moment, a strange look in his eyes. Do what you want, Rachel. I don't have the energy to argue about this, he said with a shrug. I was taken aback by his indifference. Despite his reaction, the job was incredibly rewarding. It was a breath of fresh air, a break from the loneliness and tension at home. With each day at the community center, I felt more confident and independent. It was a small job, but it meant the world to me. It gave me something to look forward to, something that was just mine. But at home, things with Michael were deteriorating. He was homey even less, barely acknowledging me as we passed by each other in the hallway. The day of our anniversary arrived, a bittersweet occasion filled with a strange mix of hope and dread. The house buzzed with preparations, my parents bustling around, trying to make everything perfect. Then, in the midst of the controlled chaos, David arrived. He burst through the door, brimming with stories from his life on the road. David, what are you doing here? My mother's voice was sharp, laced with disapproval. Couldn't miss Rachel's big day. Got something to show you, too. You won't believe the parties and the people I've met, he exclaimed, pulling out his laptop. As he scrolled through photos of crowded stages and wild parties, a strange feeling settled in my stomach. These were glimpses into a world so different from mine. Then, he stopped on a picture of a raucous party, a woman clinging to his arm, laughing, carefree, and so very unlike me. That's just some guy who's been hanging out with us a lot, David said, oblivious to my growing unease. Real ladies man, changes girls like he changes guitar strings. Says he's got a boring, stupid wife at home. His words hit me like a punch to the gut. Stupid? Was that how Michael saw me? The front door swung open, and Michael strode in, his face a mask of forced cheerfulness. David, what the hell are you doing here? He demanded, his voice laced with panic. David, completely oblivious, clapped Michael on the shoulder. Wait a minute, you're the husband. This is your gig, he asked, his smile fading. The room fell silent. My parents, unaware of the storm brewing, looked on in confusion. Michael's eyes darted between me and David, the color draining from his face. I held up the laptop, my hand shaking. Is this what you do on your late nights at work? Michael, is this who you really are? I asked, my voice trembling with anger and betrayal. Michael opened his mouth, but no words came out. His silence was answer enough. The room spun around me. The walls of our perfect marriage crumbled down at that moment. David stood beside me, his hand on my shoulder, a silent pillar of support. My parents were still trying to grasp the situation, their faces a mixture of shock and disappointment. The silence in the room was deafening after David's revelation. I stood there, numb, as my parents stared at Michael, waiting for an explanation. Michael's eyes were fixed on the floor, shame radiating from him. Michael, is this true? I managed to ask, my voice barely above a whisper. He didn't answer right away. Then, he looked up, his eyes filled with a desperate plea. Rachel, I can explain. He stammered. Explain? How do you explain this? I said, my voice rising as I waved the laptop screen. It was just a mistake. It meant nothing. I was just confused. Michael stammered, his face contorted with anguish. Confused? For how long have you been lying to me? I demanded, my voice shaking with anger and hurt. Rachel, please, let's talk about this privately, he begged. Michael, I deserve to know the truth. Here and now, I retorted, refusing to be silenced. My mom stepped forward, her face filled with concern. Rachel, maybe you two should. Mom, I need answers. I interrupted, my voice cracking with emotion. David was quiet, his expression somber. He put a hand on my shoulder, offering silent support. Michael took a deep breath, his shoulders slumping in defeat. It started a few months ago, he confessed, his voice barely audible. I was feeling overwhelmed, and she was there. It was a stupid mistake. I love you, Rachel, he finished lamely. His words felt like a slap in the face. How could he call this love? I can't believe this. All those late nights, the times you weren't here, it was all a lie, I said, the reality of his betrayal sinking in. I'm sorry, I never wanted to hurt you, he said, his voice breaking. But you did, Michael. You broke my trust, I said, tears streaming down my face. My dad spoke up, his voice stern. You need to leave, Michael. Michael looked like he wanted to say more, to offer some kind of justification, but the shame in his eyes was undeniable. He turned and walked out the door, closing it behind him with a finality that echoed in my heart. The room was quiet again, the silence heavy with unspoken words. My mom came over and hugged me, her embrace offering a small measure of comfort. David stood beside me, his presence a solid anchor in the storm. I felt broken, utterly shattered. The illusions of my perfect marriage shattered into a million pieces. But amidst the pain, there was a flicker of something else, a sense of clarity. The truth was out, and now I had to find a way to pick up the pieces and rebuild my life. A life that was mine and mine alone. The days following the revelation were a blur of emotions, anger, sadness, confusion, and a surprising surge of determination. My parents tried to comfort me, their love a constant source of solace. David stayed by my side, offering a listening ear and unwavering support. I knew what I had to do. The decision was clear, even through the fog of my pain. I needed to end my marriage with Michael. It wasn't just about his betrayal. It was about reclaiming my life. I just need to start the divorce process. I can't stay in this marriage. That said, my voice trembling but resolute. David nodded, squeezing my hand gently. I'm here for you, Rachel, whatever you need. Meetings with lawyers were emotionally draining. I sat across from Michael at our final meeting, his face filled with remorse. Rachel, I am so sorry. I never wanted things to end this way, he said, his voice low and defeated. I know, but sorry isn't enough. Michael, you broke our trust, and I need to move on. I replied, my voice firm but tinged with sadness. I just wish I could make things right, he pleaded. Some things can't be undone, I said, rising from my chair and walking out of the office, leaving him behind in the wreckage of our failed marriage. It was over. I was free from the lies and deceit, but with that freedom came the realization of my new reality. I was alone, truly alone for the first time in my life. The following weeks were a time of intense self-reflection. I was talking with David, who shared his own stories of heartbreak and healing. My parents, while still struggling with their own feelings about the divorce, offered their unwavering support. One evening, sitting in the living room with a cup of tea, Mom spoke up, her eyes filled with compassion. Rachel, we're here for you. You're strong and you'll get through this, she said. Dad nodded in agreement, his gaze filled with pride. You've always been a rock, even when we didn't see it. We're proud of you, he added. Their words, filled with love and acceptance, washed over me like a warm balm. For the first time in a long time, I felt a sense of hope. I also threw myself into my work at the community center, finding unexpected joy in the small moments, connected with the children, feeling a sense of purpose within me that I didn't know existed. I started to rebuild my life, piece by piece. It wasn't easy, and there were days when I felt overwhelmed by loneliness and doubt, but I kept moving forward, driven by a newfound determination to live a life that was true to myself. Sitting in the small corner cafe, I replayed the whirlwind of recent events in my mind. The steam from my coffee blurred with my thoughts, creating a hazy film all over the memories. I remember the day in court, a final decree of our divorce, a symbol of the official end of our marriage. I saw Michael, a shadow of the man I once knew, a stark contrast to the confident and charming man I had married. His presence stirred a mix of pity and relief in me, a confirmation that I had made the right decision. Then came the hollow pleas, the last desperate attempts to salvage what was already irrevocably broken, stripping away any lingering sentiments I had for the marriage we shared. Perhaps the most vivid memory was the last time I saw Michael. He had come to my door, unannounced, his eyes red and swollen. He fell to his knees, begging for forgiveness, promising to change. to be the man I deserve. I stood there, unmoved, as his tears and pleas washed over me. They were just the last desperate acts of a man who had lost everything through his own doing. Through all these moments, David was my pillar of strength. He was there in the courtroom, offering a reassuring smile. And he was there on my doorstep, helping me gently but firmly turn Michael away. He was a constant reminder that I was not alone, that I had someone who truly cared about me. As I sipped my coffee, I realized how much I had changed. The naive girl who entered that marriage was gone, replaced by a woman who had faced betrayal and come out stronger, more resilient, and more determined than ever to live a life filled with authenticity and purpose. I felt a sense of pride in my newfound independence and resilience, a quiet satisfaction in knowing that I had the strength to overcome adversity. My gaze shifted to the busy street outside the cafe window, watching as people hurried by, each absorbed in their own stories, their own struggles, and their own triumphs. I felt a kinship with them, a shared understanding of the complexities of life. I took another sip of my coffee, its warmth spreading through me, a comforting reminder that even in the darkest of times, there is always hope. I was starting over, but this time on my own terms. There was a future out there waiting for me, filled with possibilities and new beginnings. I was ready to embrace it, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead with courage and grace. So, Reddit, after hearing my story, do you think I handled this situation the right way? Was I justified in ending the marriage? I'm truly curious to hear your perspectives and learn from your insights. What would you have done differently, if anything? I am open to all opinions and advice as I navigate this new chapter in my life and try to make sense of everything that has happened. Please share your honest thoughts. I value your feedback.